We're gathering tonight in a virtual meeting due to RSA 91-A emergency provisions. As chair of the Barrington Select Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. There is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which has been authorized by the emergency order. We are confirming as a public body that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Microsoft Teams for this electronic meeting. All members of the Select Board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access contemporaneously to listen and, if necessary, participate in the meeting. Phone participation can take place by dialing 1-603-664-0240 and entering conference ID 214786797 hashtag. Video participation can take place at bit.ly/BARR_B 200727. We're providing public notice necessary for accessing the meeting. We've given this notice in electronic format on our website, and you can also find more information on this at www.newhampshire.gov. If anyone has a problem throughout this meeting, they can contact administration@barrington.newhampshire.gov or dial 664-0146. If for any reason the public was unable to access the meeting, the Select Board would adjourn. Please note that all votes that are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let us start the meeting, please, with roll call attendance, beginning with Select Person Air.
Yeah, present, and at 334 Old Concord Turnpike, I am by myself. There's no one in with my vote.
George Bailey, I'm at home and my wife is downstairs and nobody else in the room with me.
Andrew Knapp, present, and by myself in the room in the house.
Sakosha, present. I'm here, alone.
And Tracy Hardikoff, I am in the home with my husband who is downstairs and my Bernese mountain dog at 48 Stone Farm Road. No one will be influencing my votes. If I could ask people to please silence any background noise due to their cell phones, put them on buzz or vibrate, we'd very much appreciate it. And join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have, from what I'm seeing, no public meetings tonight. Is that correct? Public hearings tonight, Connor?
No public hearings.
Very good. That's a good agenda. We appreciate that. We do have an appointment tonight from the Rec Commission. They'll be discussing 3 or 4 pertinent issues. Do we have our representative from the Recreation Commission?
Hello, Dale Sylvia from the Rec Commission.
Hi, Dale.
Hello.
The floor is yours, beginning with the, let's see, update on the addition.
So I have with me the Rec Director, Jess, and I'm going to let her speak to that portion, and we may switch back and forth on a couple of different topics, but I'm going to let her take the lead on that one.
So you guys were provided with an outline from Carino Construction that gave the proposed addition plan. We just wanted to provide you guys with an outline of what would be kind of encompassed in the inside as well as the outside of that addition. We're still working on the final budget with them. However, they are looking for approval on this addition plan, so that way they can go forward to the planning board on the 4th. So I just wanted to provide that with you guys and just see if you guys had any questions regarding what would be kind of encompassed within that project. That project is due to start pending planning board approval on August 19th and run through the beginning of December. So again, we just were looking for approval on that addition, and just wanted to see if you guys had any questions as you looked it over.
And your commission has approved this, Jesse?
They have, correct.
Very good. Select board, any questions, comments, concerns in reference to the proposed addition design?
I think they've worked really hard at this, and I think if it works for them, everything looks good to me.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
The only, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Well, I noticed too, the drawing real quick, it's a lot more egress doors and stuff look like it was added from the first sketch I saw. Looks good.
Thank you.
Okay. I think, Connor, if I'm not mistaken, we already took a vote on the expending of the funds for this.
Right. So this step of the process is simply, the select board is responsible for the facilities in town decisions, whether it's a building permit application or a larger addition project like this. So these are the plans that the rec department is taking to the planning board. And so they'd like to go to that meeting with approval from the select board, that you, along with the rec department, approve of the plans as presented. Now they'll go to the planning board and hopefully receive planning board approval to proceed. There still may be minor changes to the interior fit and finishes as they work through the budget. But certainly if there's input the select board has, now is a great time to offer it. But it likely won't be the last time through the building project.
Well, I personally am excited for them that they can finally get some office space in order to function and operate in a manner that's appropriate to them. So I would make a motion to move forward with this.
I would second that.
And roll call vote beginning with select person Air, please.
To clarify that, we're giving approval to put the addition on a town building.
Correct.
Yes, and we've
That's-
already approved the expenditure from the revolving account at a prior meeting.
Right.
So roll call vote beginning with select person Air.
Air I.
Bailey, aye.
Nap aye.
Sakosha.
And Hardikoff, aye. Thank you all very much. Moving on to the discussion of the firewall, please.
All right, so we have been working with JCM Fire Codes as well as Chief Walker to determine exactly what needs to be addressed within this building in order to get our maximum capacity back up to a number that meets our programming needs, specifically for the summer and teen camp program. Through much deliberation, we have determined that the food pantry and recreation gym, that wall is the only wall that needs to be separated in order to meet that 299 person capacity. I have brought this information to the Recreation Commission on the July 27th meeting, and there was a motion by Dale Sylvia that the Recreation Commission would agree to pay for this out of the revolving fund. We are looking at approximately $45,000 for that one wall to be addressed. And we are hoping that with the approval of the corrective action plan that we would have until August of 2021 to get that wall addressed. So we are looking at timing in regards to the least impact on our programs, such as yoga, Pilates, floor hockey, those type of programs. So we are just giving you guys an update that during the July 20th meeting, the commission did motion to pay for that wall out of the recreation revolving fund.
Very good. So any questions, concerns, or comments, board members? Okay, seeing as there's no questions, comments, or concerns, I would make a motion that would allow the rec commission to expend $45,000 out of the revolving fund for the firewall.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call vote, please, beginning with select person Air.
Air I.
Bailey, aye.
Nap aye.
Sakosha.
And Hardikoff, aye. Thank you very much. So the next
Chairperson
issue,
Hardikoff,
Yeah.
the former chief has raised his hand, would like to render a comment.
go ahead, Chief Walker.
So what I'm still looking for out of the board is the authorization. Now, whether that motion makes that or not, is that is your building. And I'm still looking for the you to say that it's okay to approve what the fire marshal and I are recommending, that the wall can wait till the end of August.
Yep, I was about to take that up with the board.
Okay.
Thank you,
All right.
Chief.
All right.
In reference to the recreation gym fire code issue, we received corrective action plan that has been both signed off and approved by our fire chief, who is also our authority having jurisdiction, and he approached the fire marshal for the state of New Hampshire. Is that correct, Chief Walker?
That is correct. I worked
Yes.
with the fire marshal's office.
And we have been given a corrective action plan. It is up to the select board that we authorize that to be in place until such time as the firewall has been placed. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns in reference to that?
Is there a life date on that?
I'm sorry, one more time, please, Select Person Bailey.
Is there a time frame being attached to this motion?
I'm understanding it was 1 year. Is that correct, Chief Walker?
August 31st, 2021.
August 31st of 2021.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, concerns, or comments? If seeing as there's none, I would make a motion to accept the fire code action plan as presented by our fire chief and approved by the state of New Hampshire.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call vote beginning with select person Air, please.
Air I.
Bailey, aye.
Nap aye.
Sakosha.
Hardikoff, aye. Motion carries. Thank you all. Is there anything else from the Rec Commission?
We just wanted to give you guys a quick update just to make sure that you are all aware of just two, points that we were looking at during our last meeting. So you guys were provided with the revolving fund balance, anticipated balance throughout the end of the year. As you guys can see, we do have about 550,000 in there from the June ending balance. After the addition, as well as furnituring and securing and doing the security within that space, as well as our quarterly bills and addressing that fire separation, by the end of December, if we don't have any programs continuing, which really is kind of up in the air as we're working with the school for a lot of their facilities, we are going to be roughly around $58,000. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that we are tackling that revolving fund and really trying to update our facility and, give back as much as we can with those funds that are in there. So I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of that. And then Dale just wanted to give you guys a quick update on the 2021 operating budget. We will be presenting this during budget season, but we just wanted to make sure that you were aware of this decision that was made during the last meeting, so that way you guys anticipate this prior to budget season coming up. So.
Okay, Dale?
Thank you. It is our intent, and everything that I'm saying right now, obviously nothing's official until budget season and we submit our budget, but we've had some lengthy discussions, and it is our intent to have the Rec Commission each year. We're going to look at it, and it starts with COVID because of COVID, and we understand that the town's taken a lot of hits and things like that. So we are planning on, for this year, assuming a lot of things out of the operating budget, which the town is normally paid for. The revolving fund is going to try to help out and take a lot of things. And it may be things that we will look at again each year, depending on where the status of the fund is. We're not committing to it long term, but it is something that we have looked at, and we've agreed that that's the intent that we want to do, is the revolving fund will assume a lot of the operating budget items this year.
Thank you. We appreciate that. As you know, we're faced with some very challenging revenue streams throughout this next year. So thank you for that. We appreciate all the work that you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
I was just saying thank you in recognition and appreciation of all the work that they've.
And I give a thumbs up.
Very good. Thank you all. Next up is our review of meeting minutes from the 7/13/2020 meeting. Did anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, or corrections?
I'd like to make a motion to accept them.
Very good. And a second, please. I'll second it. roll call vote, beginning with select person
Bailey,
Air,
aye.
please.
Bailey, aye.
Did Dan vote?
Yes, he did.
Dan and George did, yes.
Sorry. Nap aye, and I wasn't unmuted, so I would have motioned.
Coach, I,
And Hardikoff, aye. Thank you all very much. I missed public comment, so I would like to open up the floor to the residents of the town of Barrington for up to 15 minutes, 3 minutes per person. We found in the past that if you mouse over your meeting and you raise your hand, it alerts the administrators of the meeting and they're able to tell us you're out there waiting to speak. I will give it about 30 seconds, and if no one is choosing to speak during public comment, I will close public comment.
It's all select board members and staff, so so everybody's familiar with the system. I don't see anybody jumping on to unmute themselves, so I think we're okay to proceed.
Well, it's been 30 seconds, so we will close public comment and move on to staff report by our town administrator. You've got the floor.
Yep, everything's an agenda item with information in my report, so we can handle that as they come.
Okay, and Municipal Office Administrator Tiffany Cottle.
Just one sec. We have for your signature, one deed with no covenants for property being returned to previous owner following all taxes and fees having been paid. That one will require wet signatures rather than electronic. Payroll manifest 59A, that's a revision. AP register 2020-60 for period ending July 22nd, 2020. And the minutes for the last meeting. That's it.
Very good, thank you. So we need at least three of the wet signatures for that document
Yes.
by the prior owner. Okay, so if
I'm
anybody
available
can make
tomorrow.
it to the town hall, I can certainly swing by tomorrow and be one of those.
I'll swing by tomorrow as well.
Thank you.
yeah,
Okay, under old business, select board goals and the mid-year analysis. Connor, you want to talk about that?
Sure do. So you've been going breakneck speed. I love it. I want to keep the momentum up. I will be as brief as possible, but I think it's important to touch on these. Less for the select board. You're obviously more aware of this, but for the community, so we can get this out there and make sure the community knows what's going on. So as I did last year, the select board sets goals at the beginning of the year. Voters approve a budget. I think it's really important to monitor this and pay attention to how we're doing throughout the year. So this is a mid-year analysis, which brings us through the end of the second quarter. So for all of the expenditures and revenues, we're talking about 50%, right? So that's the benchmark that we're kind of comparing to. First, I'll start with the goals. So the select board set 4 goals on April 13th, 2020. First goal was to monitor and respond appropriately to the local impact of pandemics. Second goal was to continue infrastructure planning and improvement. Third goal was to develop a combined policy manual and review schedule. And fourth goal was to encourage widespread and complete community participation in the 2020 census. So the big picture summary is we've encountered some unforeseen challenges, but staff and the select board have done a great job making progress on these goals. And starting with the first goal of a response to the local response to the pandemics, it's really a few categories. First and foremost, something we've talked about a lot and covered at every select board meeting since the beginning is the service adjustments that we've made and made sure that they were resident focused, finding ways to meet the residents where they are. All of the information is constantly updated on our website. The departments have used this as an opportunity to find new ways, like I said, to meet residents where they are, whether it's exchanging documents or otherwise conducting businesses. A lot of municipalities were quick to shut down. Barrington was quick to adapt. We never had any delays in our building office or our planning office when a lot of municipalities and even municipalities in our area shut down those offices to wait things out. And that's not a knock on them, but I think it took a lot of effort on our part to continue providing those services in a seamless way. So credit where credit's due to the staff working for us. So I think another big one to hit on is the accessibility of public meetings. We've received tremendously supportive feedback of these virtual meetings and the ability of folks to participate real time from the comfort of their home or wherever they are in a safe and responsive way. As I've said, something we hope to continue even after the coronavirus has passed. Next area has been monitoring and responding to the new and adjusted laws and orders. So this is something that's taken a great deal of time out of otherwise business that would have been conducted otherwise. The federal government has passed laws. The governor has signed almost 60 executive orders, emergency orders, which in some way relate to the services that we provide at the local level. So we've taken great care in understanding those and responding appropriately, making sure that we're protecting the town's interests by following all of the laws and orders that have come down from the governments above us. Next, we've explored and secured available relief funds to help minimize the financial impact. So again, this is an area that's taken a tremendous amount of time, but it's very valuable time. It's very important that we minimize the financial impact to the residents of Barrington, to the added cost and inefficiencies of how we're providing services right now. So I outlined some of the areas of funding that we've explored and already received funds from. We'll continue to push that effort and make sure that no stone goes unturned with money available to the town of Barrington responding to this pandemic. And again, is tremendously important, and that's a big part of the reason why I continue to say that I don't believe the financial impact will be significant this year. Next year, we will certainly feel the hit with lost revenue and some additional expenditures. But this year, because of that grant revenue that we're able to bring in, we're really in a comfortable spot financially. So that's an important piece of this whole puzzle. Responsive policies and to address unforeseen circumstances. So the select board was quick to jump on the outdoor seating for restaurants and outdoor services, waiving the site plan, enforcement of the site plan requirements. And that's a very business minded, allowing our businesses to get back out there, serving the community, continuing to stay viable restaurants. Additionally, the select board supported the travel policy to keep residents and staff safe through the ongoing pandemic. Finally, responsible budget utilization, recognizing the local impact. So we'll talk more about the expenditures later on, but that's an important piece of this, and the select board and town departments have done a terrific job. So again, in the executive summary, I mentioned these unforeseen circumstances that have devoted a lot of our attention elsewhere. This is obviously, it's a goal the select board has set, but this is something that staff across the entire town has devoted a great deal of time and attention to, rightfully so. But that's certainly detracted some time from other services and other items that need attention. But I feel like the town has done an excellent job managing this pandemic at the direction of the select board. Next item is the continued importance of infrastructure planning and improvement. So the town hall gave a pretty comprehensive update at the last meeting. We're still moving forward there with support from the select board. The road improvement plan the select board recently awarded a engineering consultant opportunity for the asset management grant, which we're confident will lay the groundwork to develop a more comprehensive road improvement plan. The library, the select board have continued to support efforts to achieve voter support for a new library. Recently, the select board met with library representatives, and even more recently at the July 21st meeting, the library trustees decided to postpone a third request for their library project until March of 2022, recognizing the financial impact of the ongoing pandemic on our community. And so the select board supports this decision, recognizing the many factors that have been considered. Third goal is a policy manual and review. So that's something that the policies are all aggregated. The select board have those available to them in their orientation files on the SharePoint site. The next step will be for staff, myself included, to aggregate those, develop a format, and begin a review schedule. Finally, the 2020 census community participation. So the select board has welcomed presentations from our program specialist. Just at the last meeting, he announced that Barrington's response rate of 65.3% was 87th in the state, certainly above average. And the select board continued to support complete participation, getting to those additional 35%. to make sure that we're counted for federal funds, education support, and planning purposes. So like I said, given where we are in the year and the challenges we've encountered, I feel like the select board have done a terrific job focusing on those goals with the support of staff. Happy to answer any questions or provide additional information before we move on to the budget analysis.
It was a comprehensive document. Thank you.
Awesome. So moving on, two pieces as part of this financial analysis, the expenditures and the revenue. Again, less for the select board. You've heard about this at recent meetings quite a bit, but especially for the community to understand where we are and what to expect. So right now, big picture, the town has spent about $115,000 less by the end of the second quarter than we did last year at the same time. Keep in mind that the budget increased almost $200,000. So the fact that we've spent less, the proportion that we've spent less is even higher, and we'll see that in a minute. On the flip side, on the revenue side, we've collected about $130,000 less in revenue than the same time last year. The estimated amounts are pretty close to the same, and so that reduction in what we've collected in revenue will certainly have an impact as we move towards tax rate setting, but I don't anticipate it being dramatic. So if you look at the first graph, this is figure 1 on page 6. This shows that the approved operating budget for 2020 is $7.3 million. We've spent 45% of that. And if you turn the page in figure 2, at the same time last year with the $7.1 million budget, we'd spent 48%. So again, 3% less of the budget as a proportion of what was approved by voters is what we spent so far this year. We'll continue to track in a positive direction, I believe, keeping in mind that there are certain one-time expenditures that we spend up front. So we pay our entire insurance bill. We pay a lot of these bills up front. So that captures more than 50% of the anticipated expenditures by that time. On the flip side, there are some bills that we spend at the end of the year. And so, we're tracking in a very positive direction with expenditures. So figure 3 breaks out for 2020 what the budget versus expenditures for the departments are. This isn't every department, but these are the main departments with the larger budgets. And so you can see that blue column is what 50% of the budget is, and the orange column shows you what the expenditures are. So you'll see in some of the areas where the expenditures exceed the budget, those are areas where we would expect that. Financial administration, again, that's the area where we pay our insurance bill up front. The roadways and walkways, again, paving is a large part of the expenditures, so that's something that we've made it most of the way through by this point in the year. But you can see on a department by department basis that we're trending in a positive direction. On the next page, figure 4, just by a matter of comparison, shows you the 2019 expenditures by department. You'll see a pretty similar pattern with the exception of roadways and walkways. That's an area where we had accomplished more paving projects by this time last year than we did this year. I think the quality of the product's a lot better this year. Started a little early last year. So you can see that information, and then figure 5 and figure 6 to show you the raw numbers. I know there's folks out there interested in those numbers, so having that available is important. So just catching up here on the screen on the computer for those following along at home. So moving on to revenues, this is on page 9, starting with figure 7. Again, like I said, we're down about $130,000 from where we were last year. You can see that we budgeted $3.6 million in revenue. This is an important aspect of the budget setting process. We say, listen, we expect to bring in this revenue from these sources. This is what we expect to spend. This is what we're asking for in appropriations. And based on that and what needs to be raised by property taxes, this is what impact we feel like this will have, we expect to have on the property tax rate. So that's what we're building towards. So it's it's an educated guess on estimating the locally collected revenue sources, and there can definitely be some variability, and that's what we're seeing right now. So we've collected about 41% of the revenue that we estimated by the end of the second quarter. compared to last year, we had collected about 45%. So again, that captures that $130,000 difference that I was talking about that we had collected last year that we haven't collected this year. So moving on, you can see that pie chart figure 8 for 2019. The bar chart figure 9 on page 10 shows for the highest revenue categories. So this isn't all of the revenue categories, but for the highest categories, where we are as a comparison of the budget to what we've collected. So an important note is some of the big sources of revenue, like the meals and rooms tax and the highway block grant. Those are funds that come in the second half of the year. So you'll see that we haven't collected anything on rooms and meals tax. That's a $400 and some odd $1,000 estimated revenue source. So we will see that, just not yet. So if you continue on to page 11, figure 10 shows what the estimated revenue versus collected revenue is for 2019 as a point of comparison. So a few of the sources, that $130,000 stuck out to me, and I did some investigation on where staff and myself did some investigation on where that $130,000 came from. And the results were kind of interesting. So $70,000, there's a $70,000 difference in one revenue source, and that's interest on delinquent taxes. And so it was kind of surprising to me. I would expect that maybe we were collecting less in back taxes this year than we have in years past, just because of the economy, but that still didn't add up to the entire 70,000. The biggest single contributing factor is in 2019, we transitioned delinquent taxes into a lien from 2018. And then in 2020, we transitioned 2019 delinquent taxes into a lien. And so that lien conversion takes the interest and penalties and records those as revenue. The lien amount, the actual dollar amount of the lien in 2020 from delinquent taxes in 2019 was 25% less than the year before, which is remarkable. That means that there's 25% fewer people, if they were, if the dollars represented property taxpayers, 25% fewer property taxpayers came or continued to stay delinquent on their taxes to turn it to a lien, which obviously that all happened before the coronavirus and before the economy took a hit. But that's a remarkable number. And so that reduction of 25% makes up a big portion of what that 70,000 is. Additionally, the interest rates were reduced. The state legislature reduced interest rates for delinquent taxes from 12% to 8%, and for liens from 18% to 14%. So again, if the interest rate is lower, we're collecting less in interest and penalties, so that revenue is expected to be less. So that's something I'll pay attention to for estimating revenue next year. That we'll continue to see that trend, and that'll be less revenue that we'll collect locally, but we're seeing a pretty big impact right now. The other two categories, there was $20,000 in land use change tax. We just haven't seen land come out of current use much this year. And the other category was interest on investments. And that's a revenue source that we expect to continue to see a decline in. Interest rates are rock bottom, so we might have $8 million on account, but at 0.25%, that adds up to about $1,500 a month. So when pre-COVID, we were collecting $17,000, $18,000 a month. So we'll continue to see a decline in our interest on investments. So again, just as with the expenditures, the raw data is there for anybody interested in seeing or understanding more. So in conclusion, like I said, the town is in a positive position with progress on the goals. The town's also in a positive position right now on expenditures. Revenues are slipping a little bit, but not so much so that I feel we're in dire straits going into tax rate setting this fall. And the information supporting this, if anybody has questions or would like additional information, I absolutely urge anybody, select board or community member, to reach out to learn more. I feel like it's very important for folks to be informed, especially as we go into budget development and the challenges we'll be up against, to be talking factually about what's going on locally and in our economy.
Thank you, Connor. Could you read the 4 sentences on page 12 just for the conclusion for us?
Yes, the select board has prioritized the goals set earlier this year and have done so within the approved budget. The select board will continue to support staff through the ongoing projects related to their goals. Heading into the 2020 budget planning process, the select board will continue to balance the needs of Barrington with the impact on property taxes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Moving on to the Karen Gould Conservation update. I know we took a vote in reference to how that potential land might be conserved. I know there was additional information that came in from an external source. Who wants to handle that discussion?
Is there anything to handle on it?
Well, I thought you might want to speak to the fact that you had received numerous communication regarding it and that the vote that was taken certainly received some level of support.
Yes, we even have some more messages that I have yet to have a chance to review since I was out of town this past weekend and part of last week. Excuse me. So the feedback in got was that the property that is looking to be conserved is fairly accessible, and there is a parking area off of France Road that would make it accessible, and other people have also been through it, as well as the fact that Holiday Drive Shore, they believe, is accessible for people to be able to park. Even though there are, if I read all that correct, if I read correctly, but that, as I will clear that up by saying that is one person's opinion, and I know there was a court case, but I also did do a drive-by and drive down through looking at the property, and there is already an access road in and access there. I also had a video shared with me through the property of what I guess would be a logging road that was very drivable by a vehicle. So
Okay.
I'm happy with what I proposed, and hopefully the rest of the board is as well. And to support that, I would like to see conserved and open to enjoy that space.
Very good. Thank you, Vice Chair Knapp. Next up on the agenda is the 2020 paving projects update and options.
George Bailey has his hand up.
I'm sorry, who?
George Bailey.
Okay, go ahead, Select Person
Thank you
Bailey.
very much. I just want to piggyback on the Gould property. I see that we do have the France Road possibility, but hopefully that she will get the go-ahead to put that into conservation with that stipulation. But my concern is that if we accept it and everything else, I just want to ensure that the Conservation Commission is going to move forward and provide the added parking necessary so the town folk can enjoy that property.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns in reference to that? Okay, moving on to the 2020 paving projects, updates, and options. Is our road agent in the meeting?
Yes.
Very good. Maybe this would be a good time for a presentation from the road agent.
Okay, so the all of the listed paving projects have been completed. Everything looks good. Really satisfied with Advanced Paving Company, with their quality, their workmanship, and they're good to get along with. The coring on Province Road for to find out if we can do the blending or not is scheduled to take place next Monday. Tomorrow, I'm going out there with a representative of SW Cole to basically map out where the cores are going to be taken in the historically worst spots on that road. I would hope we would get analysis and recommendations on those corings within 2 weeks. I'm just wishing here. It might be longer than that, but 2 weeks would be good. We still got a fair amount of time, no matter what. In lieu of, if the results came back that in their opinion, the blending wouldn't work, then we have two choices. We either don't do it, divert the money someplace else, or we just throw caution to the wind and do it. If their recommendation is marginal, and they say, well, we really don't know, we could either do it or not. In lieu of Providence Road, there are two other places that the remaining, I'm coming up with $81,935 left in the advanced paving contract. That could be used partially on Sawyer Lane, a reclaim and repave. I want to say that one is $35,000, $38,000. I apologize, I don't have that number in front of me. And the other place we could use some is the highway garage, the part basically starting from the rear of the front building to the corner of the salt shed out to the street and abutting the transfer station parking area. There's some pretty significant problems in our side of that parking lot. There's one spot that we tried patching last fall. The water just sits in there. It blew the patch out. The grading is poor. Where the access road, once you go through the gate, once you meet Smoke Street, the swale at the edge of that road is very pronounced. The trucks coming through with the plows and wings are just catching the edge of the road, and they're just constantly chipping the actual top coat of the road away with each trip in and out. And then there's some other spots over by the salt shed, over by where the plow hookup area is, over by the gas pump, over by the salt loading ramp area. It's all really in really rough shape. So that's a place we could use extra money. Talking to Advanced, they agreed, at least over the phone, to honor the straight line pricing on the reclaiming and paving, which I think you're going to have to go a long way before you get somebody to do straight line pricing on a parking lot situation, especially one that's cut up like ours is. It's not a bunch of consecutive pulls. There's a lot of things in the way. So it would be a chance for a relatively decent deal to get rid of the problem that's at the front part of the highway garage. The rear part of the garage by the new building, that's fine. There's no problem with that. It's just basically the side section and the forward section.
And how much is that?
That, according to the straight line figures that we've been using all year, I'm coming up with $55,000. If we did proceed that route, I would have a representative of Advanced come down and nail down a figure for sure. But that's the tentative figure.
Left over, right?
Hang on, Jim, can you let him finish and then we'll get to questions, comments?
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So the 55,000 is the tentative figure according to the square yardage price for reclaiming and regrading, and the tonnage price for the paving of 2.5 inches of binder.
Right. Okay. And clearly, select person Sakosha is going to have a question about that. Could you just quickly go over the other alternative for Sawyer Lane?
The other alternative for Sawyer Lane, that's strictly just a road that was binder coated a long time ago. I don't know the year, but it's just typical binder coat that's been left without a wear course. The water got into the pores, just blew it apart, similar to what Commerce Way was. All the parts and pieces are still in place, so there's not a whole lot of movement visually going on.
Yeah.
But it's just the water has got in there and froze and thawed, and it just finally blew it apart. So
Okay.
that's just strictly reclaim, regrade, and repave.
Okay. So, questions, concerns, or comments, beginning with select person Sakosha, please.
So are we trying to do both of these? Sorry, I'm a little late to the game on this. Are we trying to squeeze both these in?
I don't think we'd have enough money for both of them.
Which one do you think, in your opinion, needs more attention?
It might be a little tight. We might be a little over if we tried to do both of them.
Okay.
But I guess my general thought is based on what I heard from Mark, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but by the sounds of it, if Sawyer Lane looks anything like Commercial Way did, I would almost think putting it into the public road and then coming up with figuring out the long-term game plan around the highway garage would be the way I would want to proceed on that.
Chair, can I comment?
Select person go ahead.
I would provide three paving projects, and I would go against the highway garage so we have a better understanding from the transfer station committee what's going on down there. Saturday, I physically went through the highway garage, and then I went up to Sawyer Lane. These are my thoughts, my feelings. I changed my mind. The highway garage needs it done. It is beyond repair. It's going to get worse and worse, traffic and stuff. Sawyer Lane can be a coal patch, get by next year. And then these are my thoughts, my feeling, and we don't need engineers. If we take the spreadsheets that we got and we modify what roads have been done, roughly in 2004, Sawyer Lane and Gooseneck was reclaimed and paved. And I never was aware course put on it. So if we take a basic spreadsheet with information we already have there and try to get back to a maintenance paving plan, what roads should be coming around up to be done, then we ask for help for engineers. I feel it could be done with information already provided. I've seen some spreadsheets. So right now, I would recommend look at what priorities are, and over Province Road and over Sawyer Lane, the highway garage is more of a priority, in my personal opinion. You can't patch it. You can patch up Province Lane and Sawyer Lane. You can patch that. The highway garage is beyond patching.
I got another question.
Go ahead, select person Sakosha.
Mark, if we went through and did do the highway department, would Sawyer Lane be on the line item for next year?
Yeah, it would be right at the top of the list.
And in your professional opinion, do you agree that that road can survive another year until paving?
Yeah, it certainly can't get much worse than it is now.
Okay. So,
Madam Chair,
yeah, go ahead.
thank you very much. George Bailey, a couple of questions for you, Mark. First of all, if you look at the amount of work that's expected to be done down at the garage area and making a comparison to Sawyer, would it be cost beneficial for the town to turn around and do Sawyer and then turn around and do a complete workout of the town garage?
From a cost benefit standpoint, using the straight line figures that we've been using on all the roads, which is what they say they're going to adhere to if we do the garage, those prices per ton and prices per yard are not your normal parking lot rates. We're getting a deal if indeed they go with the rates that they use on the straight line stuff that they've already done for us. Those prices per ton just unheard of for a parking lot situation.
All right, Mark, taking into consideration that what you just said and everything else, how long do you think that work would last if we allowed Advance to do that? How much usage or how many years would we get out of it?
Well, you probably shouldn't leave a binder coat much longer than 5 years before you put the wear course on it. It's, even the binder coat that you would use anticipating it going through a winter or two is different than if you just were going to pave it binder and top all at once. The binder course has got more fines in it. The pores are closed up a little bit. It's made to weather a lot better than regular binder is. But I would say hopefully the transfer station situation would be ironed out within 2 or 3 years. You'd know where you're going with that. At that point, repave whatever you're going to do over on the transfer side, and then you put a wear course over the two of them, both the highway side and the transfer side, and then you're done.
All right, thank you very much. I have formed my opinion there. My last question to you is, it's kind of like a hope that you're doing, but are you making an effort now to keep track of when and what part of each road we're doing that you haven't redone is being kept track of? You putting a spreadsheet on that, so we'll know in 10, 15 years down the road when I'm not here that somebody else behind me can come and look at that and figure out where we've already put the base or top?
Yes, that's a big important part of what we're doing the way we're doing. A lot of the roads that we bindered last year, we top coated this year to protect the investment. I think a bit of a mistake that was made previously. It's like we were in kind of a race to get more roads done without gift wrapping the ones that we had already put money into. There's quite a few roads in this town that are still just binder, and they're starting to fade away at a pretty good clip, and they're going to have to be reclaimed again. I think we caught one just in time with Corbett Road that was binder since, I believe, 2013, 2014. I think we caught that one in time. But there's others that are fast getting to the point of no return, and we're just going to have to do it.
If you're going that far, I got one that's sitting right out here in front of the house that it's been almost 18 years. But anyway, I'm not advocating that at all. Please understand that, board members. And listen, I want to thank you very much for what you've come forward with, and thank you.
Okay. So Mark will report back to us after the geotechnical reports are in, and at that point have a recommendation for the select board. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Person Air.
Go ahead, Select Person Air.
I would like to make a motion to intensify that spreadsheet and all information that we have already existing, so we know which ones to target and stuff, so we can start getting into a maintenance plan as soon as we do with the grant later on the stormwater. We can figure it all in there. And I think this information provided, and I'd like to see the roads looked at this fall, not this winter, which ones need to be done. And it's subject to change. Roads do change and stuff. It's not etched in stone, but a better game plan than in the previous.
Okay, is the rest of this?
If I had 55 grand,
yep,
and 38, we're at 93. If that pricing works, I don't know, since we're SB2 town, if other money could be done, but Sawyer Lane and Gooseneck all need to be done at once. So I wouldn't mind maintaining that to next year if that's first on the list.
Okay, so I'm hearing you, Select Person Air, that you would like to have a plan for next year earlier than it was previously presented this year. I'm not sure if that's even possible, could we privately ask the town administrator to look into that and report out at the next meeting on that?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is the board in agreement with me on that? I hate to put anyone who's leading a department on the spot based on what their workload is.
Yes, I'm in agreement.
Okay, anyone else?
Bailey is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Let's follow that course of action. We have 9 more items to cover in this meeting before going into non-public. The next up is the Stonehouse Pond trash. I'm not sure there needs to be too much of a discussion on this. I think it's been presented to the Conservation and Trails Committee to come up with a solution to this. Is that correct, T.A. MacGyver?
Yeah.
1 second, select person.
Yes and no. I think most parties involved agree that it's not the Conservation Commission or Trails Committee's responsibility. It's not really Barrington's primary responsibility. Fish and Game owns the land. Southeast Land Trust owns the land around it. I think the town of Barrington Select Board and Conservation Commission are willing partners in finding a solution. The Trails Committee might be willing to do a one-time deep clean and look for somebody to adopt that area from a trash standpoint. But I think there need to be ongoing discussions, facilitated maybe by the Conservation Commission or Trails Committee with Southeast Land Trust and New Hampshire Fish and Game to come up with long-term viable solutions for that area. Everybody kind of has some ideas. Maybe it's moving the gate. Maybe it's getting a trash barrel down there and a plan to empty it. But the players need to get together and make a decision. And like I said, I think it's an unfair characterization to say that it's the Conservation Commission's responsibility. They're certainly champions of recreation areas in town, but this isn't their facility to maintain. And if they can be a helpful partner, I think that's awesome. And I think we're headed in the right direction.
Very good. Thank you.
Connor, thank you.
Select
Go
person
ahead,
Air.
select person Air.
This is premature, but at the conservation meeting, the Trails Committee did the volunteer in a day, and John Wallace said that Air in Paradise gave free trash bags for the trash. I don't know if he's talking one for Earth Day. I don't know if they've been in contact with her yet. That was their game plan.
The carry in, carry out methodology.
No, they were going to do a trash pickup. And
Oh.
they were try to get free trash bags from the transfer station and through Aaron Paradise. And
Interesting.
I'm just assuming that's the bags they use on Earth Day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, there's a few different directions that could go. There's nothing ironed out in stone, but the conversation has been started with the transfer station administrator to figure out what the best solution could be. If the Trails Committee was willing to volunteer their time to pick up trash, what the best solution would be so that they didn't have to pay to dispose of that trash. And I would assume that the select board would support if, a group in town was going to pick up trash from a public place. I would assume the select board would support disposing of that trash for free.
Very good.
Great.
Tracy, may I make a comment?
Yes, select person, Vice Chair Knapp, go ahead.
My general comment is this problem is not exclusive to our area. I'm connected in through the White Mountains and also the Adirondack Park in New York, in upstate New York, since I have a place up there, and they are having the exact same challenges in those areas as well. With COVID and everything that's happening, it's great that people are getting out and recreating more. However, a large lack of responsibility in how they are recreating. So we're not alone in this challenge. I'm willing to do a little more research and see how they're handling a combination of the Adirondacks and the White Mountains to see if that provides any more insight for us to try and to give to whoever is working with the state and CELT on how they decide to handle it.
Excellent. Thank you for doing that.
Yep.
Up Up next is the 2020 tax deeding. Connor, do you want to take this issue, please?
Yep, just real quickly. So as I explained at the last meeting, the big meeting for the select board will be the first meeting in August, on August 10th, where we will be bringing an updated list of what was provided to you tonight, and asking for decisions on deed waivers. We'll have one more step up to the plate on the August 24th meeting before the deed date, which is August 27th. So I provided this list to you now from the tax collector to give you an idea with where things stand. So the list is color coded. The properties in red are the properties that we anticipate to continue to be delinquent by the time deeding comes and would be eligible for deeding. And the tax collector, based on her previous experience, expects those properties to be deeded. The green category, this is a list of property owners who follow a pretty similar pattern every year, and the tax collector is reasonably confident that they will come even on their 2017 lien in order to avoid being deeded this year, which is pretty similar to what they do year in, year out. There may be some changes. The economy could make some changes here, and some of these properties might still be on the list as we approach the deed date. And then the category down below, these are properties that would be a liability for the town to acquire. And so they're past due on taxes, but we won't pursue those because we're not interested in that added liability. Ironically enough, there's one property on here which is actually listed for sale. And so that would be great for the town, because the first thing that happens with a sale is all of the outstanding liens are paid clean. So that's the property on Mary Hill Road. And so we could end up in a situation where we get our past due taxes and the liability is somebody else's problem. So the last thing is if there's any additional information the select board wants the tax office to prepare in order to make a decision, now is the opportunity to make that request. And like I said, you will be asked to be making decisions at the next meeting. We'll have all of the files available. So if there are questions, we'll hopefully be able to answer them. But if you have questions, you can let me know now or follow up in an email or phone call, so we can get you that information ahead of time. We're not trying to scramble for it last minute.
Okay. Go ahead, select person Air.
I'm just asking this question. I don't know. Connor, do you think the town lands need to be updated on anything or the opportunity?
Yeah, so I think not yet. And the reason I think not yet is because, I mean, you can see how big the category of green properties are. Those are properties we expect to change, right, to not come off. So I think it would be, I think it could be a waste of the Lands Committee's time to give any thought or consideration to these properties until they're actually deeded. But no, they'll be the first ones to get the list, because I'd like to start the process a lot sooner than we have in years past, taking care of these properties when we deed them, get them posted for no trespassing, get all the liability issues taken care of, and start getting them on a list for resale, because I'm a firm believer that the town of Barrington should not be in the business of owning property, except for conservation property, but owning real estate property, through tax deeding. So the Lands Committee is a great partner in that, and we're very fortunate to have a group of dedicated folks.
Very good.
George Bailey has a question.
Go ahead, select person Bailey.
Thank you very much. Do we have a list available to us to peruse as to who the delinquent tax people are, besides the ones you've just provided us? In other words, one that will go a course of 3+ years?
So yeah, so the list that I provided you is just folks that as of today are eligible to be deeded, meaning that they haven't paid, completely paid their 2017 lien. I think, Mr. Bailey, what you're asking for is a list that includes folks that are delinquent even on their 2019 taxes?
That's correct. I'm looking, is there one of those available that we could review? I'm not looking to make a copy of it. I just want to be able to review it. And I'm sure that maybe some of the other select board members would like that also.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's public information. There's no issue with taking a copy of it. And I could absolutely ask the tax collector to prepare that report for you of all delinquent property taxes.
But is that acceptable with you, Madam Chair?
I would ask what the purpose would be.
Just for my own general knowledge. That's what I was trying to say in the beginning.
So will it be creating more work for the tax collector on T.A. MacGyver?
Realistically, no. It's
Okay,
an easy
then-
report to run out of the tax software.
Yeah, I personally don't need access to the information. I know oftentimes people have paid at different times when they can. I don't need the information. Is there any other select person that needs it, or should we have select person Bailey review that on his own?
Well, Madam Chair, let me just say this then, open it up to you. If you feel that it's something that you don't want to have available, what have you, I can understand that, and I'll just go along with it. I was just curious as to see who the individuals are that are asking other individuals to support them. Well, that's all I was looking for.
Oh, okay.
That's it. If you feel it's out of hand, then that's all I need to hear, then I will withdraw it.
No, I don't think it's out of hand. I just, for my information, I know it changes so often. I don't need the information until we get to tax deeding time.
Very well, and I'll just,
I have no problem getting a report for you, Select Person Bailey.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
Madam Chair,
yeah, go ahead, select person Air.
like Connor said before, that's public information and stuff, and not if George wants it as a select person or as a citizen, so he can do it. Anyone can.
No, I understand. I'm saying from a select board perspective, it's not a report I need to review. If anyone else has an opinion about that, please speak up. Okay. I'm going to move on to the compliance calendar and turn it over to the vice chair or the town administrator.
I can cover this. Andy and I had a great meeting last week. We just talked about it kind of briefly at the select board meeting. I followed up with the vice chair, and I think we put a good plan together on how we could start implementing this for the town. And the priority would be for items pertinent to the select board. So to get a calendar put together for the select board's benefit. So at any time you could peruse this calendar as a select board member and see what issues are upcoming, give you even more of an advance opportunity to ask questions or ask for additional information. And so starting there would give department heads an opportunity to think about this compliance calendar from their department, how they interface with the select board, and then build from there. Happy to have Andy fill in the gaps.
Andy, before you speak, would this help address select person Air's request of having road information in a timely manner?
So I think it could. I think what would be on a compliance calendar would say something like the highway department in September, or the highway department in August finalizes the first draft of the paving list for the following year. Okay. So that the select board would know every year in August is when the select board is going to review the list in a typical year. And so the select board could ask in July for, hey, when you prepare the road list this year, could you please get us the road history for X, Y, and Z roads?
Excellent. Okay. I understand now what the purpose of the compliance calendar is. Go ahead, Andy.
Yep, I was just going to say, I think Connor's covered it quite well, and it's one of those pieces of information that ideally should make everybody's job a little easier, and from a succession planning end makes it really easy, especially for the board with turning over after terms, to pick up and see what's coming and where it'll be and how to do it, and it will be an added benefit for the department heads as well.
I agree with you. Select person Air, you had a question, comment, or concern?
Well, another thing about that, the study or this rough idea, the price is going to be going up and stuff, and money's going to be tight in the future. We're going to end up raising that line item so we can anticipate the costs and stuff. And life's not getting cheaper. The money's going to get tighter. But that line item needs to go up in price to get back in that maintenance plan. So in 20, 25 years, when we complete the circle, we'll all be gone by then. I will be. But then we know you go back to there. So it's a good tool to have, and I don't think it'd be that much. I think we have the information, a lot of information. We just mark it down so people just look at it real quick and know, wait, we gotta start looking at this road, see how it's holding up. So do we put it
Okay.
on?
Very good. The next up on our agenda is the Hard Rock Development Project Update. T.A. MacGyver.
Yeah, so real quick, had a meeting with the folks from Hard Rock that the town is in a development agreement with to develop a piece of property down the south end of town off 125. The development agreement calls for the preparation of the property for commercial development to include hauling a fair amount of material out and developing, somewhere between 6 and 8 commercial lots that the Hard Rock, the company, would sell and split the cost with the town, and would be a source of property tax revenue, commercial property tax revenue for the town. So this project's been ongoing for a number of years, and most recently they were working with the Department of Environmental Services to evaluate what information DES wanted in order to render a decision about their permit. And so they worked with DES to determine the scope of a hydrogeological study where they drilled countless wells out on the property and monitored them over a 6-month period to understand the flow of water and the terrain better, and what the impact to the cedar swamp on the other side of the ridge, on the other side of the power line right away may be, or if there would be one at all. And so the report was completed, and I saw the results, was presented the results from the hydrogeologist and the consulting firm, and the results were favorable. The results, pointed very much to what a lot of folks expected already, based on the terrain work that has been done in that area. If you look at where Liberty Truck is right now, that wall of material that was excavated, there's, other than during a rainstorm, there's no seepage of water out of that rock face. And so that's what folks expected to see as they go farther in. And that's what the hydrogeological results provided. And so the next step is a meeting with the Department of Environmental Services, which I will attend to present these findings, present the information, and make sure that they're comfortable moving forward through the permitting process. As long as they're comfortable, then that would kind of turn the wheels of progress back into motion with the planning board and with the other steps of the process that are necessary. So it was all kind of put on hold until DES was happy with the information that was available to them. So I'll continue to update the board and the community, but that's the update as it stands. This is a classic case of one of those projects that isn't in the headlines very often, but that doesn't mean that progress isn't being made. Good things take time. And this is something, like I said, a 6-month well monitoring project takes, 6 months. And
Very
so,
good.
but productive indeed.
Well, thank you. The next up on our agenda is the Town of Barrington Services and COVID response. I'm not sure how much time we need to dedicate to this, since we've talked about it at each meeting. Any changes to report out on our responses, T.A. MacGyver?
Nothing additional.
Very good. Moving on to new business, because I know we also have some other items to vote on. Winter contractor rate reviews. Has everyone reviewed this material, by the way?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay, and do we need Mark to speak, or Connor, would you like to?
I'll let Mark speak. The only thing I want to say is just want to make it clear, we're not expecting the select board to make a decision right now. You're certainly welcome to if you want to, but the purpose of this is to, let Mark share his experience, where his head's at, and give the board an opportunity to ask for what additional information they might want before making a decision. So just keep that in mind, and I'll let Mark, or if you folks have questions for Mark, if everybody's reviewed the information in there, maybe you can just answer questions and fill in the blanks.
Okay. Let me just ask, select board members, do you have questions? I see select person Ayer's hand up. Go ahead.
Yes. I brought this up 3 years ago to the previous town administrator and stuff, and finally, to follow the state with the 10 hours and stuff guaranteed. I'll talk as a person who plows snow his whole life and stuff. It's a dying breed out there. The cost of doing business with the trucks and the insurance and fuel and everything, permitting, insurance after 9/11 is gone crazy and stuff to plow public right of ways. And I feel we need to do this. And winter is changing, and then the road agent needs to adapt to keep workers and adapt to these winters. I'm not going to get into global warming, but the jet stream, everything has changed. It's not the same as years ago.
Okay,
So we rely on his thing, and I support this because it's hard to get truck drivers.
very good. My only question for Mark would be, Mark, can you give us a full estimate of how much you think this would increase that line item budget? Any other questions, comments, or concerns from the
I have
select board?
some.
Go ahead, George Bailey. I
Thank
see your
you very
hand up.
much. One of my questions is that the Madam Chair has already requested, I'd like to have a total cost for last year's expenditure for snow that we put out. And secondly, if you're Mark, if you're willing to say that we should go to $90 an hour, would have him get above the average of 85. If that's the case, what are you going to recommend for your employees if you're going to give an outside contractor that kind of money? That's something that I will wait. No, it's just a question. I'm not looking for an answer. It's just a question. I'll review that on your budget. So we do have a problem with raising that up. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Vice Chairperson Knapp, you're up next.
Yes, what I would like to see is, based on the information we have, it gives us a rate of 80 to 97 per hour, with us at 85. If possible, I'd love to see the breakout on that. So I could kind of assess where we are in relation to different size communities, and talk a little bit about miles of road and things of that nature, as well as maybe some potential hybrid plans to that. And I also would propose holding off on a vote on this till we move a little bit farther into the season, like the end of the third quarter, just because a lot happening in the economy right now, and I'm interested to see where it ends up.
Okay. So you'd like to see it pushed a little further out than the next meeting?
Preferably, yes.
Okay. Do you have a specific time frame you're interested in, Vice Chair Knapp?
Well, end of third quarter would be September, middle to end of September.
Okay.
And that would usually be substantial enough, I believe, before winter crew. You start pulling on all your winter crews. And
Well,
Mark.
Yep, I was going to say, let's ask Mark if that will give him enough time to get contractors in place.
Select person Air.
Hang on, Select Person Air. Mark, can you answer Vice Chair's question about that? Would September give you enough time to get your contractors in place?
September's a little on the late side, I think.
Okay.
A lot of those guys have already made their decisions by then. Let me just give you some information to kind of put this into focus. Last year's contractor use, I believe, was about half of what the actual budget was. We used to have a slew of pickup trucks that just kind of went away. I have no intention of replacing them. I think we can do okay without them. So that is part of that budget line that's going to be available for this. Also, it seems like in the past the deal was the unspoken deal was, or the understanding was, that every time we went out for a winter event, the hired trucks would go out. That was just an automatic, including the pickup trucks. So really, I guess a lot of times what would, a little flurry would go by during working hours, something that we could very easily take care of. It was just the common practice that everybody got called out, including all the hired guys. That's been kind of going away since last year. The utilization has been a lot more prudent. In other words, I'm not using them unless I need them. So in the past, the hourly rate was kind of sweetened by the extra hours, and that's kind of going away.
Okay.
A little bit of the.
Very good.
Chairperson Hardikoff?
So
If
yeah, go ahead, T.A. McGyver.
Yeah, so just to answer a couple of the questions, some of this is information that I had sent to the board previously, but just to get the information out because it's already available. So compared to recent winters and the winter we just had, which obviously all things aren't equal, but I think it's a good basis for comparison. Last year, the town of Barrington spent $156,000 less on winter maintenance total than during the winter than the average of the 3 past years. And so that was comprised of about $11,000 savings in overtime for the staff we have, a $27,000 savings in sand, a $50,000 savings in the use of winter contractors, $68,000 savings in the use of salt, and that brings us to the total of $150,000. So Mark actually doesn't know this because we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but I had previously done a calculation to answer the question you asked Tracy about what we anticipate this would add to the budget. So based on hours, based on average use of hours, and this is rough numbers, but if the number of hours we used the big trucks last year was the same as next year, the $10 increase would be equal to about $10,000, maybe $10,500. And so to your point about increasing the budget, I still think that we would bring forward a decrease in that budget line based on the fact that we saw $50,000 savings over last winter. And so the idea is, and I think this is how it's described in my report, is quality over quantity. So that's the same thing with the salt and the sand. That's the same thing with the winter contractors. So to Select Person Bailey's point about the folks that we have working for us, everybody agrees and recognizes that the winter contractors are an integral part of our winter maintenance plan overall. And it's, through Mark's management, we're using the winter contractors less. And that's a good thing for the property taxpayers in Barrington. But it's also important that we retain those winter contractors because without them, it would cost the town a lot more to maintain the roads. And so last year, the select board supporting that 2-week minimum of 10 hours to help with cover overhead, which I'll keep, remind you, it isn't something that, most of that were hours actually worked. But anyways, that support was helpful. But after reviewing the numbers and how much we actually use these folks, if, they can go to the town of Nottingham and receive, I think it's $120, $125 an hour. And even if they're working the same amount, they have to travel, or even if they can go to another community that's paying $85 an hour, but relies on them more heavily than the town of Barrington does. This is something that both Mark and I have thought about a lot. And like I said, so those are some answers to the questions that have already been asked. To Andy's question about waiting until Q3, I would agree with Mark. I think that's a little late in the season, just based on, when we try to tie these things up. Last year, you'll also remember we started a new contract process to lock the winter contractors in, to a service agreement, and developed a run sheet requirement as part of that, so that they're tracking the material usage and what the conditions are of the roads as they're doing it to cover the town in the case of an incident or accident. Select Person Knapp also brought up the idea of a hybrid plan. And I definitely think that's something that, we could explore more. There's a lot of communities that do that. They kind of do an a la carte like the state does. If you bring a truck that has a plow without a wing, you get this rate. And if you bring a wing, you get this rate. If you have ground speed control, you get this rate. And so we could certainly consider that, kind of a keep it simple approach with one rate. But but if you have concrete suggestions, I think it's worth considering.
Okay, could I ask that the select board, can we get the answers to our questions and move this to the August 24th meeting? Vice Chair Knapp?
I'm fine with that, and I'll also retract the idea of waiting until the end of September on that.
Great,
Select Person Air.
thank you. So go ahead, Select Person Air.
Last year, the state increased the scale of pay, but in the future, you're not gonna be able to get subcontractors. It's coming to that. So we're gonna have to look at seasonal workers as some way to deal with it. They're far and few behind, and all this money they're throwing around on unemployment, it's not helping the young generation's work ethics. That's my opinion.
Thank you. So we'll move this discussion to the August 24th meeting. Thank you all. Moving on to the Eversource right of way. I know in our report out from the town administrator, there's a bridge that has been built for Eversource to exercise their access to the property. Conservation wanted to notify us that it's in place, does not want us to take any action in reference to this, but to be aware of it, and if the footbridge begins to lead to unauthorized vehicular access, the town may want to reevaluate not taking action. Does anyone have question, comments, or concerns in reference to that?
I'm in agreement with what you said, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Select Person Bailey. If there are no other questions, comments, or concerns, I'm going to move on to the police disposal policy waiver. Before we do that, I had one question. Is Chief Joy on here?
Yes.
Okay. Chief Joy, someone posted the other day in a public forum that we own some type of military, like, Humvee thing that was at a roadside parking area during a detail. Do we own something like that?
Am I audible, Connor?
Yes.
Okay. The answer to that question, ma'am, is no. The individual is not wrong in what he saw. He's just wrong in ownership. We've had, as a lot of people in town know, 4 details per day for Lewis Tree Service. We have not been able to fill all those on our own. Other agencies have helped us. I believe the Hummer in question belongs to Madbury PD. My guess is retired Lieutenant Jacob Banyan was probably in that from Madbury. If the gentleman saw it and it was an all black Humvee, it was probably Madbury's, but it does not belong to the town of Barrington.
I didn't think so. I kept thinking, how did I miss this? Okay, well, thank you, Chief Joy, for the simple explanation.
Yeah. Tracy?
Yeah, go ahead. I can't see any of you. For some reason, I pinned you, and I cannot see you.
So that unit at one point did belong to the town of Barrington, and the prior chief was able to move that along so we weren't just paying for maintenance and repair, and I believe we traded it for legal services.
Ah, very good. Okay. Select person, there was another select person that wanted to speak, but again, I can't see you, so if you use your raise.
Andy mentioned everything I was going to say.
Very good. So moving past this issue to the police disposal policy waiver in reference to a dirt bike. If everyone has read their material, there's a dirt bike. It was military surplus valued at up to $500. We're being asked to consider waiving the disposal policy on this item. Questions, comments, or concerns, or do you need a presentation from the police chief?
Madam Chair, I've had the opportunity to read the information here, and with the legality of it, I've also discussed it with TA, and he helped update me on that. So when you're ready, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Very good. If there's
Select Person Air.
Go ahead, Select Person Air.
Connor, I got a question for you. That motorcycle came with the Humvee. I think it was a federal grant. So, is there any clauses of a disposal of it? Does it have to go to a different agency, or can it be sold to the public?
It's an excellent question, and the answer is that for this specific piece of equipment, the town of Barrington is able to dispose of it as we see fit. We plan to pursue an online auction. We had success receiving good funds with the sale of a police cruiser. And the only stipulation from the federal program is that the revenue from the disposal of the property has to directly benefit the law enforcement agency. So that's why we're asking for a waiver in the disposal policy. So the police department could essentially use that as grant funds opposed to it going to the general fund, because that is the only stipulation. But excellent question.
Okay, any other questions, concerns, or comments before Select Person Bailey makes a motion?
No, I'll second his motion.
Go ahead, George, make your motion, please.
Making a motion that the the policy be waived for the $500 for the dirt bike, so the money will go to the police department instead of the general fund.
Okay, so the motion is to allow for the sale of this item and that funds would be directed to law enforcement here in the town of Barrington. Andy, you wanted to second that?
Yep, I'll second the motion.
Okay, roll call vote beginning with Select Person Air, please.
Air I.
Bailey, aye.
Nap aye.
Select Person Sakosha, can you unmute yourself, please?
Sakosha.
Hardikoff, aye. Thank you all very much. Next up on the agenda is the reversal of the involuntary lot merger. I know we've seen this multiple times. Do we need a discussion on this, or should we move to vote?
I'll motion it.
It's been motioned by Vice Chair Knapp. Could I have a second?
Bailey, second.
Select Person Bailey has seconded it. Any other questions, comments, or concerns before we move to roll call vote? Seeing as there's no question, comments, or concerns, roll call vote beginning with Select Person Air, please.
Air I.
Bailey, aye.
Nap aye.
Sakosha.
Hardikoff, aye. Thank you all very much. Moving past this, we're doing the Select Person report outs, beginning with Select Person Air, please.
All right. My job's easy because I mentioned both the trash and the Trails Committee, and then the bridge came up in the meetings up, but the town administrator did a very good job handling it and providing all information. So, thank you.
So you're done with that? That's it? Did you participate in the school board meeting?
It's tomorrow, there's one, but the other one, they changed the date, so I went to go log on. They changed the time too.
Yes, they did. I participated. I can give a report out on that.
I appreciate it.
Okay, Select Person Bailey, could you give us a report out?
Yes, thank you very much. I went to the library trustees meeting on the 21st, and I must say it was very comprehensive. There was a lot of back and forth and a lot of opinions as to whether or not they were going to present to the town voters a warrant article for the library again, and they turned around and made a decision not to follow through with a warrant article for this upcoming election, but they did say that they would skip a year and go to 2022 at this time. So it was so withdrawn and so long, I had to ask permission to leave because it really took a lot out of all of them. But just to let you know that they're making a new process in how to open up the library, become more accessible. And there was a lot of comments that was given to Melissa, the librarian, on how her call in and get a box full of books and walk out the door made it. So it was overall, it was a good meeting, and I don't think I missed anything at all on there. So that's all I have to report.
Very good.
One last thing, I got sworn in today to start when Marie turns around and leaves.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
And let's see, Select Person Knapp, report out, please.
I have nothing to report out. The meetings, there's no planning board meeting, or there hasn't been a planning board meeting since we left, and I don't believe we had any other committee meetings that I'm missing, so.
Okay, select person Sakosha, I think we know what happened at rec. Anything else to report out?
Jessie and her team have been working as hard as they can on everything to make everything happen, both building wise and for hopefully future rec activities wise.
Excellent. So I'll do a quick report out. So the transfer station committee, they're holding 2 days of polling Barrington residents in reference to a number of issues that they have been tasked with. And so there was an agreement as to what the questionnaire would look like, and then sign up volunteerism for a Saturday and a Tuesday when they'll be conducting questions of the townspeople in order to really affect appropriate change within the transfer station. So I appreciate all of them volunteering their time to do that. The school board did an excellent job in their meeting, and basically in the meeting described both the bus policy for transportation, described what their limitations are for appropriate distancing, described the process by which they could approach schooling and 3 different avenues, an in-person class, a hybrid, an in-person class, varying hours. And basically the result of that meeting is they were sending out questionnaires to all of the parents with students in our district in order to figure out who will be attending in class, in person, who would prefer to keep their children in a remote virtual environment, and who will be expecting bus transportation so that they can have an appropriate transportation plan in place. But it was excellent. It was fully comprehensive, and you could see the amount of work they had put into it, for the school board members. So, and additional, services. They've had a lot to cover in a very short period of time. So that's what I have to report out there. And we are moving to our public comment section. 15 minutes, 3 minutes per person. And we hold for exactly 30 seconds. So if you're on here and would like to speak, please raise your hand. Rick Walker. 3 minutes, Rick.
When you guys spoke, when you had the conversation with Mark about the parking lot for the highway garage, it kind of got me to thinking about the issue of the public safety building parking lot. That's come up a couple of times over the years, and it's never been funded. At some point in the not too distant future, the board's going to need to make a decision on how to move forward with a paving project of the size of that public safety building. And I'll just remind a few of you were on the board at least 2, maybe 3 years ago when you had the road agent come up with a price. And if my memory serves me correctly, it was in the $80,000 range to grind that and prepare it and repave it. Obviously, I'm not thinking that's getting any cheaper. So again, whether it's in the 21 budget or 22, but that's not going to go away. The pavement's getting bad over there. It's beyond repair, and it's something you folks are going to have to look at sooner rather than later.
Very good. Thank you. And that took 1 minute. Thank you, Chief Walker. Select person Sakosha, 3 minutes.
Hey, is Mark still on here?
Yes.
Hey, I just want to send my condolences to Matt and his family, and I know that was a big loss on his end. So I hope everything's good on that end.
Yep. Thank you, select person Sakosha. Select person Air, 3 minutes, beginning at 8:13.
I believe Paul, the facilities manager, they had an estimate done on the safety building when they did the school, and I believe it was 105, 110,000. Rick.
Okay, I'm sure that we'll get an estimate when it comes time to place it on the list of items that need to be paved. So with that, any other public comments, please? And if there are no other public comments, I would ask for a non-public session of the select board for land. Is that correct, T.A. MacGyver?
No, so we'll say for reputation, personnel, and legal.
Okay. Oh, sorry. All the other 3 then. My apologies. So for purposes of, say it one more time, reputation,
Personnel and
legal.
legal.
Okay, very good. So, motion, I'm making a motion. Is there a second? I
Second.
see a second from select person Air. Could I have a roll call vote to enter non-public?
And are we coming back out for any decisions?
Yes, we will be coming back out, absolutely.
Air I.
Haley, aye.
Nap aye.
Sakoshai.
Chief Walker, did you have a question? Was your question answered?
My question was answered. Thank you.
So select board members, I sent you an email with the link for the virtual meeting. So I'll see you all over there.
Very good, thank you.
How's your dinner, Chief?
Dinner was good.
Glad to hear it. I called my wife at I don't know, maybe 5:15. I said, "Hey, change your plans. I'm gonna come home for dinner. You think you have anything you could fix up?" Got home, delicious stuffed peppers with some biscuits, and I just felt like the luckiest guy in the world. I got to hold my little boy and Riley sitting on my lap. So I was thinking I was gonna be out at dinner tonight, but no, she came through. She's a super
So the
saint.
best thing to give you for Christmas would be a gift certificate at McDonald's.
Okay, I need a motion to exit non-public since we didn't do that, please.
All right,
So
make a
moved.
motion. I'll make the motion here.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Bailey.
Okay, roll call vote, beginning with select person Air, please.
Yeah, hey, we're not gonna
Bailey,
seal
aye.
them, right? Hold on, George. Do we need to seal them?
I would say that portions of the meeting not referring to Connor's topic on lease will be sealed indefinitely.
That's my motion.
Thank you.
Second.
And a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call vote, beginning with select person Air.
Air aye.
Bailey, aye.
Nap eye.
Sakoshai.
And Hardikoff, aye. And T.A. MacGyver, could you report out on our lease?
Yeah, so as folks are aware, the town has been working through lease negotiations for the rented town hall space that we're in right now. The select board had approached the landowner for the potential for a 24-month lease with a non-appropriation clause, which the select board could enter to remain in the building for up to 24 months, with the understanding that should the new town hall be constructed prior to the full 24 months, the town would forfeit the difference in rent as a payment to the landlord. So this is an opportunity for the town to have the security during the unknowns with the construction of the town hall, and it gives the landlord the ability to also have that security for 24 months as occupants of this building. As part of that agreement, the town would have no further requirements once the town leaves the property. No requirements for the parking areas, no requirements for the HVAC systems, no requirements for the alterations. We'd leave on good terms on our way out, and the landlords would have the responsibility for the building. So the select board has reviewed the terms of the agreement, the lease agreement, and has agreed. We expect to have agreement from the landlords based on negotiations for the 24-month lease. Once agreed upon, the lease will be public information available for anybody to review. So it's a lease extension of the original agreement and simply adds additional terms based on those 24 months, with the first 12 months under the same terms of the original lease, and then the second 12 months with the new terms. And that's part of that non-appropriation clause that allow the select board to make 1-year agreements and have an out should the funding not be supported in the second year. So I think this is a win-win for the town and the landlords to continue a mutually beneficial arrangement, and something that allows the town to focus on continuing to provide services in these challenging times without mixing in a move, a move prior to the move to our permanent home at a new town hall. So I applaud the efforts of the select board, specifically the select board chair and the landlords, for working through this and coming to an agreement. So that's the update. And I believe, unless there's anything else to discuss, we're ready to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Could I have a second?
Yes.
Thank you, select person Bailey. Do we need a roll call?
No.
Air aye.
Bailey, aye.
Nap eye.
Sakoshai.
Hardikoff, aye. Thank you all very much. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Take care.